Hi everyone, welcome to today's celebration. It's such an exciting day for us. So just wanted to start off by a quick statistic. Women and minority-owned businesses have been hit the hardest during the global pandemic, with $800 billion lost in estimated income in 2020 due to the pandemic, which is equivalent to the combined GDP of 98 countries, according to joint research conducted by the Global Institute for Women's Leadership at King's College London and Google.org. Fast forward to now, to this very day, as we approach the end of summer 2021, where we see cities, businesses, and communities opening up again and thriving. Today, we're here to celebrate the future. Today's event falls in line with UMA's 5th year anniversary, and what better way to mark the occasion than a celebration of the strength and resilience of women and minority-owned businesses in New York City and around the world. So we're going to give you a quick sneak peek at the agenda for today. So if Ari, if you could go to the next slide. So we're going to start off with a quick introduction to our partners, a welcome speech, and then a virtual panel, a diversity and inclusion talk, and then a closing remarks, and then we're going to end the event. So on that note, if we can go to the next slide, Ari. And I'd like to first introduce to you Ari Newsom, who is one of our partners from the DIT. He is our Associate Director, Department for International Trade, and I welcome you, Ari, to take the floor.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rita, for that introduction. Welcome, and again, good afternoon and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. DIT is a proud partner of this event, and just to introduce our own background, the Department of International Trade is essentially the trade and investment arm for the UK government. Our aim is to promote free trade for British companies across the world through both inward and outward investment in the UK. So essentially what this means is we help support British companies interested in opportunities overseas. Specifically, in our case for the New York team, we support within the US, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania markets. But we also support UK companies interested in expanding into different regions across the world as well. So from the inward investment, we support UK companies interested in these overseas opportunities, as well as foreign companies such as US in our case, companies that are interested in these market opportunities in the UK. And we do that through a wide range of services and support through our network of trade and investment professionals and a wide array of sectors. So tech, financial services, retail, consumer goods, creative and media, life sciences, you name it. So we're here to support you in any way for those of you that might be interested in the UK market or UK companies that may be interested in expanding here in the US.
Thank you so much. And next we have MicroMentor, Anita Ramachandran, who's the Executive Director of MicroMentor by Mercy Corps. Over to you, Anita.
Thank you, Rita, and it's really wonderful to be here for this virtual event. My name is Anita Ramachandran. I lead the MicroMentor initiative, which is a social enterprise that sits within Mercy Corps, the global NGO. MicroMentor is an online community of entrepreneurs and volunteer business mentors. So we are the world's largest network of business mentoring, where entrepreneurs are coming to our community from over 170 countries around the world. Our platform is available in English, Spanish, Arabic, Bahasa Indonesia, and the Somali language for supporting the Somali refugee community in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia. MicroMentors at its core mission was created and is continuing to grow and support micro entrepreneurs have democratized access to social capital. We all know that in an entrepreneur's journey, financial capital tends to always come up at the front of the seat and front of the table, and we know that social capital connection, is critical for entrepreneurs to succeed. In an entrepreneur's journey, and I'm sure in this audience you'll resonate. It's an isolating experience. So having a mentor and someone that can connect with you and be able to support you through this journey is really critical, both from a business success standpoint, but also from a psychological well-being and social connectedness standpoint. So that's at the core of what we do at MicroMentor. But in addition to having the nucleus, which is where entrepreneurs and mentors connect, MicroMentors really our unique value proposition is that we're also a global community. So we have Fortune 100 companies engaging their employees as volunteer mentors through an employee engagement program. We have states like the state of New York and the city of Sacramento that are housed their mentoring initiatives on MicroMentor technology. And then we have several sort of financial institutions and civil society partners who have sort of rooms in the larger MicroMentor house, bringing in their community and creating a global network effect for good. Just in this past year, since COVID struck, 60,000 or so entrepreneurs have signed up on MicroMentor to get free business mentoring help. And we have volunteer mentors coming from all over the world looking to give back and connect. We are so excited to have a couple of our entrepreneurs present on this panel today and look forward to hearing this very important conversation. So thank you for having me, Rita. Back to you.
Absolutely. Anita, thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to hand over to Santosh Ganesh, who is the Global Chairperson for Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade. Over to you, Santosh.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Rita and Team UMA for organizing this great event. I'm sorry, I don't know, I have some technical issue. My camera is not working perfectly. Okay, let me just, without wasting time, let me get into the, hello? Okay, without wasting time, let me get into the topic today. So thank you so much once again for the entire team of UMA and DIT and MicroMentor and other supporting partner for this particular event. Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade has started just a year back, and we are proud to say that we have got a global team spreading across 64 countries. We have not only built up our team across the world, but we have come up with three big projects. One is called Brand 10,000 MSME program, Brand 10,000 Women in Business program, Brand 10,000 Startup program. So Brand 10,000 Women in Business program is having 4 different pillars. One is called leadership transformation, the other one digital transformation, third one is called international trade, and the fourth one is called virtual industry cluster. Virtual industry cluster is one of such initiatives which has been developed, and we have been successfully running in India, and we are currently piloting a couple of virtual industry cluster model even in Africa. We are thinking that we definitely will be able to grow this global virtual industry cluster concept across the world and take this into the next level. And I think we are open. We are open to welcome any of the women leaders joining over here to be part of our community and take the advantage of whatever the offering that we have. We currently offering all women entrepreneurs across the world the free digital transformation services in terms of any of your businesses thinking of taking physical to digital, building up a competency in terms of how are you going to present yourself into the international market, what are the competency that is required in terms of the compliances and the supply chain part of it, or the financing part of things. We will be able to do the handholding completely. I think that's all for today. Thank you so much once again, the team UMA.
Thank you so much, Santosh. And then finally to our slide, the UMA slide. So we are a global diversity, equity, inclusion platform that is a consultancy and coaching specific platform that specializes in inspiring success, inspiring women and minority founders to gain confidence, resilience, and leadership around the world. So that's a snapshot of what we do. We are based in many countries now around the world, really pleased to say, and so excited that we've reached 5 whole years of really empowering women and minorities around the world. So on that note, I'd like to now pass on to the next slide, which is a welcome address and a presentation of a letter from the Mayor's Office by Monique Hector, who is the Director of Program Development and Implementation of the Black Entrepreneurs NYC, BNYC, part of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Over to you, Monique.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Uma and team, for having me. And hi, everyone. It's an honor to be a part of this special event celebrating women and minority-owned businesses in New York City and beyond. My name is Monique Hector, as stated. I'm the Director of Program Development and Implementation for Black Entrepreneurs New York City. In short, we call it BNYC. And this initiative is part of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. The City of New York is committed to building a stronger and fairer city by creating opportunities for all, safeguarding the American dream, and addressing the racial wealth gap. In 2019, SBS launched BNYC. It's a first of its kind initiative in any major American city to address the disparities facing Black entrepreneurs. BNYC aims to eradicate systemic barriers, preventing success, and create equitable wealth and advancement for Black entrepreneurs across New York City. Our goals are to, one, help Black business owners navigate challenges posed by the pandemic, and two, increase the number of Black-owned businesses in New York City, especially with a focus on high-growth industries, and then three, conduct policy research and advocacy to promote Black entrepreneurship. To reach these goals, we've identified 4 pillars so that we can achieve systemic change. One is providing equitable access to financing. 2, we're strengthening professional networks and advice. 3, we're helping to scale Black businesses for long-term success. And then 4, we want to prepare Black entrepreneurs for opportunities in high-growth industries. Over the last year, we have established critical public-private partnerships, launched several programs, and hosted multiple events. Some of our current partners include Goldman Sachs, MasterCard, Ernst & Young, Founder Tribes, which is actually based out of the UK, and then the Brooklyn Navy Yard. To reinforce how committed the city is to entrepreneurship, it's a privilege to share with you a letter from New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio congratulating UMA on their efforts to support women in Black-owned businesses. So I'll read through this letter so that you all can hear some of the mayor's remarks from New York City. So dear friends, I am delighted to welcome everyone as UMA celebrates its 5th anniversary at its virtual event, a celebration of women and minority-owned businesses in New York City and beyond. My administration remains steadfast in our mission to support business owners and entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds. And through our Department of Small Business Services and our Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise Program, we are working tirelessly to provide them with the resources they need to navigate the unprecedented COVID-19 crisis. Established in 2016, UMA is an ally in this work, promoting diversity and inclusion in our vital business sector and empowering women and minority professionals in New York and beyond through leadership, development, and career coaching. Presented in partnership with the UK Department of International Trade, the Global Council for Promotion of International Trade, and MicroMentor, today's virtual panel will honor the accomplishments and resiliency of women and minority business owners as we continue to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. I applaud UMA and all of those associated with today's program for their efforts to strengthen our diverse community and reinforce our status as a global hub of opportunity for all. On behalf of the City of New York, congratulations to UMA on 5 wonderful years. Please accept my best wishes for an inspiring continued success. Sincerely, Bill de Blasio, Mayor. So I hope this message inspires all of the founders joining us today and everyone on this call to know that SBS and UMA and team and all of our partners are here to support you in the amazing work that you do now and for the future. For more information on a little bit more on what SBS is doing on our end with BNYC to help advance economic opportunity in New York City, I'd share that you can look at our website at nyc.bnyc.gov, and I'll actually share it in the chat so that you can always access it later. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Monique, and thank you to the Mayor's Office for that wonderful letter as well to celebrate today and all of the women and minority-owned businesses. So today we are here to hear from 4 power panelists, all founders of minority-owned and women-owned businesses that have not only survived the pandemic, but they have shown resiliency, strength, and success, and to come out bigger and better than ever before. Please join us in welcoming to the stage Sabrina Jean-Baptiste, LMHE. She's the owner of Black and Extraordinary Times. Priyabanda Chauhan, owner and executive chef of Desi Gali. We have Johnny Ann Hibbert, the founder and the creative director of Juni. Then we have Sarah Machuri, the founder of Eco Dunia. So welcome everyone to the stage. And now we're going to start off our panel discussion. So I'll just wait for my fellow panelists to be spotlighted, and then we'll come on to some questions. So I'm going to start off with you, Sabrina. So you are a licensed mental health practitioner with a focus on the African American and Caribbean community. Given the impact on mental health that the pandemic has had, can you talk to us about the resilience in the work that you do?
Sure. It's recognizing the need for change in a time of stillness. Before the pandemic, I'm sure people had so many different ways to cope with their life challenges, whether it's going out, maybe engaging in drinking, seeing their friends, so on and so forth, right? But when the time of stillness occurred, all of those opportunities disappeared. So when the lockdown happened, it means that means to escape was no longer available for people to deal with their issues. And as Black people, we need the resilience because not only was the lockdown we had to face is also racism, police brutality, and your own personal issues going on in one big bubble. So the fact that during the pandemic, people saw that they wanted to get help was a really big change. And although it was very crazy, it was something that probably needed to happen to stop and think and to realize, you know what, I need to put my mental health into consideration because some of us, especially entrepreneurs, we dive ourselves at work. We may have family to take care of, and we forget to take care of ourselves. So during this time of stillness, we had to make it an essential. So I have seen a dramatic increase of Black people wanting to seek therapy, especially Black men, which is something I've always been trying to advocate for, because there is still a stigma in the Black community and Caribbean community about mental health challenges. So it's important to being able to call out on your own issues and your negative emotions that impacts your level of functioning. So that shows all signs of resilience. And before considering mental health, it is difficult to be vulnerable in front of a mental health professional. And this is why I created my brand, Black and Extraordinary Designs, is to use journaling as one of the stepping stones to navigate what challenges that you need to see, what work that you need to do within yourself. And funny thing, I did a Juneteenth event over the summer in Bed-Stuy, and I've met so many different people that actually enjoy journaling, that were looking for mental health therapists, were trying to find a good therapist, but journaling was one of their positive escapes. So I praised them so much and how much they spoke of how journaling has helped them, and that made me feel even better about my mission of my brand. And also is good problem solving skills and critical thinking and organization. And I could go on and on and on. And is one of the greatest interventions I do enjoy using in my practice as well. So even if you're not ready to seek a professional, writing can be essential as well. And it can be a great stepping stone to recognizing the issues that you may want to consider facing. And unfortunately, a lot of mental health services is not available to the Black community because lack of resources. Some people don't know where to start. So I do try to use my platform and trying to navigate resources for those folks that are unable to find mental health services, if it's through the insurances, if it's through community clinics. Some people really just don't know the resources are out there. So being able to recognize I am in need of seeking professional help is amazing.
Well, Sabrina, thank you for sharing that and the important work that you're doing. I'm going to move on to Priya Banda next. So I know you're on audio today, you're working from the restaurant. So you can just unmute yourself now for the question. So you are a Canadian from Montreal with Gujarati heritage, and now you're the owner of successful Indian street food restaurants with multiple locations around New York City. More importantly, you survived the pandemic. Can you talk to us about your resiliency journey?
So it all started in March 2020 when there was a lockdown in New York City, and we felt that we couldn't stay closed. People needed to eat. Manhattan's kitchens are not made for cooking, and we're fortunate enough to be walking distance to our locations. So we basically had 3 scenarios at the time of what we would do. Number one, both locations would stay fully open because people still needed jobs. So if our staff were willing to come in, we would keep both locations open. Scenario 2, we'd keep one location open and just try to help the neighborhood in one location. And number C would be we'd close down. And unfortunately, we were fortunate enough that we went with A. Both locations stayed open. Our staff wanted to help the community. They wanted to feed people who didn't. And people who walked in were really appreciative that we were open. And that was one of the main reasons we were able to stay open. And we were not afraid of COVID. I sent everyone home in Ubers with masks, like no one had to take public transportation. And during COVID, we opened up DG Pantry, which is our grocery line, which wouldn't have happened if COVID hadn't happened. People were walking into the restaurant. Can we have cilantro? Can we have rice? And we just started sectioning off whatever produce we had available to help out the community. At one point, we're like, you don't have money? No problem. Just take it. You know, it's either you take it or it's going to go to waste. So we weren't even looking for income at that time. We just wanted to make sure everyone was fed. And that was one of the main reasons we're able, 2020 was one of our best years. It was even better than 2019 was because of our team and our community around us that wanted to support us.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Priya, and also for the great work that you've been doing. Next up, we have Johnny. So Johnny, thank you for stepping out of New York Fashion Week to join our panel. In your work, you make it a point to share your rich Jamaican heritage in your fashion. Can you talk to us about the resilience that you're in your journey as a fashion designer?
Yes, thank you so much, Rita. And I apologize for the background noise, guys. I'm actually at Form Show. So after New York Fashion Week, it's when you meet with the buyers. So I'm literally on the trade room floor. So I'm stuck in the closet right now trying to have this conversation with you. So, you know, one of the things for me during COVID, you know, resiliency to me, it's very the hallmark of great leaders, right? And during COVID, I didn't have the answers like most people, right? The only thing I know is that we were facing uncertain time, right? And one of the biggest things for me was community is important to me. And I realized that I needed to have a social contract with my community. And it needed to be a contract that was human and multidimensional, right? I had employees that depended on me, suppliers that needed my business, but literally everything shut down, right? So what I had to do was pivot to a digital model. So I'd already been working online through my e-commerce, but I had to more fully embrace an e-commerce model to my business. And the other issue that was faced was trade, right? So trade affected how we all did business. And in the fashion business, we found out how fragile our supply chain was because we couldn't get fabric in, we couldn't get anything in. And that's where the human element came in, because now you had to build relationships with your local suppliers where literally they were coming to your home to drop off fabric, or you were now working with an Uber driver to drop off fabric, to pick up sewing, to pick up supplies. So we literally had to reinvent our playbook. And for me, no one was going out, so no one was buying anything. So I pivoted to making masks first for first responders as a way of generating income for me and my sewers. And then I started making masks for the food bank as a way of giving back to my community. And everything that I did had to be creative, right? In weaving different creative expressions, right? So I started making the kaftan differently, like a house dress, because everyone was home, right? So people weren't going out. So now I was reinventing the kaftan in bright, bold colors because now everyone is on Zoom, right? So they needed a Zoom dress, right? So that was one of the ways that I pivoted. I also pivoted to making more comfortable clothing and using the fabrics that I had, in my storage to actually create new and interesting clothing that people would embrace as they were home and as they were facing a new reality. So, you know, in a nutshell, that was, for me, that was the way I handled resiliency in my business during COVID.
Yeah, and a lesson we could all learn. Thanks for sharing that. And the thread I'm hearing from everyone is creativity and thinking outside the box and really, really running through that. So Sarah, on to you. You actually split your time between California and Kenya, and you focus your work around economic opportunity to lift people out of poverty. resilience is at the core of the work you do. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, thanks, Rita. So when the pandemic hit, I was living in Kenya. I had made the choice to relocate 2 years prior to that. And I was living in my hometown of Nakuru. And the people that I work with, the people who've been left behind by the global economy and usually tend to be the poor. And I knew as soon as that, I knew that we were going to be hit the most, because it's the poor and the marginalized that suffer the most when things like the pandemic happen and when we face challenges. And one of the things that I decided to do in the beginning was that I knew that I had to move. So the airlines were closed. I couldn't come back to the US, and the US government was offering charter planes out of Kenya. And I was like, I need to be on the next plane, because if I didn't leave Kenya, our production had closed. I knew that our business was not going to survive, and I had people to pay. And I looked at my sheet and I was like, I have 2 months worth of rent and salaries. And so I came back in March I came back to the US. And one of the first things that I was doing was knocking on doors, calling all days, and we make bags. So I started selling at the farmers market, because that was the place that I live in the Bay Area. And so people were still going to the farmers market because that was considered essential. And so I signed up to farmers market and calling stores. And I just had to do what needed to be done in order to survive from one day to the next. I didn't have a plan. I just woke up and I asked myself, what do I need to do today? And so we've actually did better, and we've gotten into maybe about 10 stores or more across the Bay Area. So it's been one of those things. I just didn't have a plan to sell into stores and to grocery stores, and that just evolved as time went by, and I was able to keep people paid and my team paid. And I think for me, resilience came from like the work that I do, and it's uplifting people and making sure that those people who, my tailors who probably their creativity will never be seen, they're paid and their work is seen. And it's the mission that kept me going over time.
Incredible. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing that. So it's not just, obviously creativity, but it's being flexible and open to that journey just changing very, very quickly. So thank you all for sharing that. Now, today is about celebrating successes and taking action. So Sabrina, I'm going to come to you now. What's one tip that you can share that all of us can do to help other women or minority-owned businesses remain positive mentally?
Well, it's realizing that you don't have to do it alone, even though it feels like you have to, especially if you have a small business like myself. You're everybody, right? You have multiple hats. You're the promoter, you're doing your website, you're shipping and all that stuff. But if you are offered the help, absolutely take it, because it is essential to your mental health. And it's a great stress reliever knowing that you can depend on a person to just take a little bit of stuff out of your hand, because the goals will be met. Just because you think it'll get done faster doesn't mean the outcome will be just as successful. So it's important to pace yourself. It's important to listen to your body as well. If you're not sleeping enough, if you're feeling more overwhelmed, anxious, all of these negative symptoms, it's okay to take a step back, because the work will get done. I'll say when I first started my business during the pandemic, I was up until like 4 a.m. trying to find new ideas. I would do a pop-up shop or an event, and right after, I'm looking for new things to do or new ideas. And I knew it wasn't healthy for me, because within a few hours, I had clients to see. So just have that experience. I had to take a step back and realize things will get done, but my self-care is just as essential, because if I'm not good, then the business can't run. So I have to just take a step back, and we all have to realize that it's okay, and don't feel ashamed about it. Take a day out of the month or every other week to take yourself out, do a spa day, do something that's essential just for you and not for the business alone.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sabrina. And it's a lesson for all of us. You know, if we don't look after ourselves first, how can we kind of look after everyone else and be our best selves? So moving on from that, Priyavanda, we all need to eat. What's one tip that you can share that can help us support other women or minority-owned businesses in the restaurant and catering industry?
I'm gonna just like what Sabrina said is absolutely right. I've learned in the past 2 years to manage more and do less. Like I am now hiring a marketing manager, and everything is outsourced. No one's permanently on my payroll. I outsource marketing, social media, design. I come from a design website. Yes, I could do it myself, but I no longer have the time. So we need to find people who do it better than us and that we can manage our projects, because there's only so many hours we want to dedicate to our business without going crazy. So again, what Sabrina said, manage more and do less. That is the way I'm doing it moving forward.
Amazing. Great words of wisdom there. And I think that's a really important point for all of us, you know, because as founders, we're all trying to take on so much ourselves.
Yes.
But letting go and getting others to do it and train them so they can do it better than us is really the key here.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that, Priyavanda. Johnny, on to you. Some of us are going back to hybrid and in-person setups. So what's one thing we can all do to be more confident from a wardrobe perspective?
So thank you, Rita. So, you know, for me, I love quotes. So I'll give you this quote. The historic challenge for leaders is to manage a crisis while building the future. So literally, not only am I managing the crisis coming out of COVID, but I am building for the future. So I just came off doing New York Fashion Week, which gives me a much bigger platform for my brand, because I realized that for the brand to grow and coming out of this, I really need to scale up. I need to do things differently. So that's one of the things COVID has taught us, is to look at our business and look at our business model and how we're doing things and assess and pretty much change our playbook and do things differently. I am at the Form Show trying to have this conversation with you as well, because I realize that now I have to also open up my business to new markets, and it's scary. It's the scariest thing you've ever done. But, you know, that's one of the things that as women that we have to do, is that we have to scale up and we have to go out and we have to look at things differently and we have to do things differently.
Absolutely. Julie, really well said, because that's something we all forget sometimes, that yes, you have to think differently and just scale up, look at different things. Things don't always work out the way we want them to. And that's the key there. So thank you for sharing that, Johnny. Sarah, what is one thing that we can do to spread the word or support communities for economic diversity?
Yeah, I would say the one thing is to, when you are buying things, you know, we all buy things that we need in our daily lives, is to make sure that those things are actually supporting the people that we want to see thrive and businesses that we want to keep in business. So, you know, last week, and I usually come back. So last week I had an incident where I needed to buy a new case for my computer, and I did what most of us would do. And I went to Amazon and I was searching for a case, and I was like, Sarah, what are you doing? Why are you spending your money here? And so I had to stop myself, go out and look for a woman-owned business that is making cases. And I found a Black woman who's designing beautiful cases in LA, and I bought her case. A, it was beautiful. B, I want to see her thrive. I don't know who she is, but you know, my values align with wanting to see people like that thrive. And you know, I was like, I want to spend my money in businesses like that. And it's the everyday things, you know, we don't have to change the world by donating to charity. It's one way of changing the world, but we can do it in the things that we usually buy. So I would say that if you're thinking of getting a gift, we make beautiful bags at Ecodunia. The holiday season is coming. So if you're thinking about gifts for people that you love, buy from small businesses, buy from us. Yeah, so that's what I would say, is support, you know, either your local, not chain restaurants. And that is one way that you can support diverse businesses.
Amazing. Sarah, thank you for sharing those words with us. And absolutely, to support small businesses, women and minority-owned businesses, what better way than actually shop from those businesses, buy from those businesses, explore those businesses, and that's really, really the way to do it. So before we end on the last power question, I'm going to ask anyone that if you have any questions for us, please feel free to write in the chat, and we've got time for a couple of questions. So now for the panelists, I'm going to do a quick fire round. I want to end this panel with one word or phrase of empowerment from all of you. So Sabrina, I'm going to start with you. What's one word from you?
Be accountable for your mental health.
Be accountable for your mental health. Absolutely. Priyavanda. Okay, I'm going to move on from Priyavanda because I can see she's not on her laptop right now. But Johnny, if you're there, can you share one word for us?
My one word is mama, which literally is the name of my debut collection, because I think as women, and we're all women entrepreneurs on the call, that we all need the mamas and we all need a nurturing environment and other women who will nurture us and lift us as we lift each other. So that's my one word.
I love it. Thank you so much. Sarah, what about you?
Is to remember that we're not alone. We're standing at the shoulders of very strong women and our ancestors who came before us, and they were very strong, and we have them for support. To just lean in and remember that our ancestors are supporting us.
I love that. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm just going to end with a quick word for myself, which is goddess of go-getting. This is the philosophy we think of at UMA all the time. It's that inner strength that we all have, and it's what we all have inside of us. So on that note, I want to hand over back to you, Ari, and to find out if we have any questions, either from the panel or if you have any from earlier on, from collecting the responses.
Yeah, so I am happy to. We did get a few pre-submitted questions to our attendees, so I'm happy to pose the first one to our panelists. And the first one that we got prior to the event was, what are some of the opportunities that you found through your resilience from the pandemic?
Okay, any of the panelists, if you just want to, just
I could actually take that. One of the things that came out of the pandemic was, sadly enough, the Black Lives Matter and the acknowledgement of the 15% pledge, and just the acknowledgement that minority businesses need a little bit more help. So I think that was one of the things that for me as a fashion designer, it opened up access to us, to Black and Brown and Indigenous designers. It opened up opportunities that we never would have gotten pre-pandemic.
Well said, Johnny. Thank you so much.
For me, is recognizing people that didn't have mental health services before, or were actively seeking it, and the pandemic had to happen. And that's what pushed me to create my journals and my brand for people who didn't know where to start. So once again, unfortunately, the pandemic had to happen for these opportunities to arise, but it opened the floor for many paths for people who needed to seek mental health services, and I could better advocate for the Black community.
Thanks, Sabrina. Harry, do we have any other questions?
Okay, also, so kind of feeding back into the recovery stage that many small businesses are experiencing now, what would be some of the first steps that you would recommend to small business retransitioning into their businesses, at this recovery stage of the pandemic?
This is Jenny. I could take that. So I think one of the biggest things that I would recommend is to seek out those organizations that can actually help with the recovery process. And it's not just in terms of capital, but it's just in terms of everything, reassessing your infrastructure, reassessing everything that you're doing, right? So whether it's the UK International Board of Trade, whether it's the mayor's office, whether it's your small business association, right? There are just so many resources that have actually come out of the pandemic. And I would say to any small business owner, you're not alone. Those resources are there, grants, there's all there. So that's one of the first places that I would go, and I would actually recommend to small businesses.
Amazing. Thanks, Johnny, for sharing that.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that. What Jonah said is, I've discovered there's so many resources that I was not aware before the pandemic. And, I've seek out mentors from MicroMentors, and I have about, I'm working with 3 people, is that people really want to help. All you have to do is go out and ask for help and not be embarrassed about saying that I don't know how to do this, and being flexible in the things that you thought this is how things were going to be, and just listening to what other people have to say and then making the choice, is that what's good for my business? But there is a lot of help, and there is a lot of people who are willing to give that help. You just need to find them.
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to quickly piggyback on that. I think coming from a minority and a woman background, quite often we're brought up in communities where we're not taught to show vulnerability. We're taught to just accept things and go with it. So I think the first thing really to piggyback is ask for help and learn how to say no and prioritize, especially when you're a small business and you're getting back on your feet again. It's so easy to say yes to everything and take on so many different tasks. But I think if we can prioritize what is important, what needs to be done now, it's a really, really good step forward and can stand us in really good stead as well. So Ari, do we have anything else? We have time, I think, for one more question if we have any.
Okay, so I'm just searching the chat. And again, I would like to say, please feel free to add any questions during the chat, during the event, if you'd like to pose any. If I can keep monitoring the chat if we get any questions that we can circle back to.
All right, well, on that note, then I just want to thank the panelists. Like I said, if you want to keep writing in the chat, you can do that. Welcome to do so. So let's move on from the panelists now. Now we're going to be going on to a diversity and inclusion remarks by Ashley Meninelli. She is the Vice Consul of Technology at the British Consulate General of New York for DIT USA. So welcome, Ashley.
Hello, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks so much. This has been so enlightening and so inspiring to hear from our founders on the panel today. And listening about the stories from Resilience, I think it can be a little bit hard because hearing some of these stats, like the fact that only 2.8% of US female founders got funding back in 2019, and then that compared to only 1% of female founders, only 1% of VC funding going to UK female founders can be really disheartening. So we are trying to just bridge that gap and get more access to funding for our founders that maybe haven't had the exposure to some of these networks because maybe they didn't go to an elite university, maybe they have faced bias as a women-owned business. And that statistic is even worse for Black women who have only raised 0.02% of funding in the UK, which is just an absolutely appalling statistic. So we've held our female founders missions for the past 3 years, virtually, unfortunately, in 2021, but really looking forward to 2022, where we will be hosting a Black Tech founder mission from the UK into New York to take advantage of the networks that we've built within the New York ecosystem. I'm really proud to be in New York and be part of a tech ecosystem that is so amenable to diversity. I'm really proud of the diverse founders that we have in the city. And really hoping to kind of, again, bridge that gap between our UK founders by bringing them into New York. We've also hosted an LGBTQ founders mission for World Pride back in 2019, and I'm very excited to announce that we'll be looking to take another LGBTQ mission to Houston in 2022. So we are trying to do a lot of work to help our founders, and I think I had jotted down that what Junie said about just recognizing that a lot of these businesses just do need help because they are facing systemic discrimination and raising funding and doing business and having to overcome those biases that again can be really disheartening. But as part of my job at DIT, I'm here to help anyone, and would really just kind of give a call out to US founders on the call. But we're always looking for mentors to support our UK founders coming over. So thank you so much, Rita.
Absolutely. Ashley, thank you so much for that. And then I would like to pass on to our closing address, which is going to be done by Oriel Petri, Director of Technology, Entrepreneurship and Mobility for the Department of International Trade in the UK. So over to you, Oriel.
My goodness. Well, what a privilege to be with you here today. So I am the colleague of Ashley's, who is based in London, and I lead for our department on technology and entrepreneurship, and it's my great privilege to have heard you. For the government in the UK, some of the stuff that you've been talking about is really important and concerning. Ashley was talking a little bit about the VC fact there. Why is it that as soon as you've got a female founder on your board, it's so much harder to raise VC funding? Why is it that so few women make it onto boards? Why is it that even today, at the beginning of our London Tech Week, I managed to be in a room only with men, where only men were speaking? These things are really, really important to the British government, and it's not like we've got all the answers, and clearly if we had, we wouldn't be in this position. But it's just to kind of say that these are things that concern us, and particularly if we look at algorithms that don't seem to reflect the diversity of our societies. These are all big issues for governments to kind of contend with, and it's such a great reminder to hear amazing entrepreneurs like you who are doing fantastic stuff, and who took the pandemic as an opportunity to reinvent. And I think we heard some great approaches there from all of your panelists. I loved some of the things that you said, Sarah, about us being part of a generation of women, and we have a duty to kind of keep on fighting. But also the stuff that you were saying, Sabrina, around mental health, and Johnny, what you were saying is, the pandemic made me have to think about new ways of doing stuff. It is, of course, in adversity that we also improve and that we innovate. But staying strong, and in those moments when we kind of go, oh, I don't really want to do this, that we kind of say, no, we can do this, and we take Sabrina's words to heart, and we say, okay, we'll step aside and then we'll come back with new energy again. It's so important for all of us. I think the other theme that for me comes through for you as entrepreneurs, but actually also for me as a government official, as a woman, is to kind of stick together. And I love your story, Sarah, about saying, I'm going to go to Amazon and buy this, and actually stopping yourself and saying, no, I'm not. I'm going to find a female, in your case, Black person from whom I can buy this piece of kit that I need. That's the kind of sort of mindfulness we need to take as we all individually, but also collectively, try and change society for the better, and try and make sure that it reflects the true diversity and therefore the true innovation and the true brilliance that that society can offer. So I guess from my point of view as a government official, just a big thank you to you. Thank you for being such amazing trailblazers. I had the privilege to work in our embassy in Paris for 4 years, and I had a similar conversation with amazing entrepreneurs there. This is a global thing, and you are part of a global group of people trying to change for the better with your amazing ideas and your innovation and your entrepreneurship. And I suppose, from my small role as a government officials stuck in London trying to encourage trade and investment into entrepreneurship and technology in the UK. I'm right behind you, and I'm influencing as much as I can to change the approach that government takes and to have positive ways in which we can kind of foster this change. But I suppose with that, I say to New York from London with love, keep it up. I really hope that I can be out with you on the Global Entrepreneurs Programme to see some of the amazing stuff that you're doing soon, that I have the opportunity to travel again. But it's fantastic that you've been brought together and that you've partnered with DIT to run this event. It's definitely been a highlight of the end of my day, as I've had lots of input around London Tech Week. So thank you again, and here's to us affecting that change that you're talking about so eloquently.
Oriel, thank you so much for that amazing closing speech. And again, thank you all to you and all of our partners for this amazing event. It really is showing, the resiliency and the strength that brings us through. And today is a day about success. So I want everyone to take that moment with you. Success, celebrate, pat yourselves on the back. And on that note, congratulations and thank you for attending.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.